So welcome back to this series of videos on how to use the Structural Tools app. In the first two videos in this series we looked at how to build a simple 2D truss and then how to build a 2D frame. This time around we're going to look at pattern loading and envelopes of results. So on the left hand side here, as usual, we've got the model that we're going to build, and then on the right hand side we'll build it from scratch. So we won't dig too much into this because it's quite a simple model. What's interesting about this is the actual loading that's applied to the model, which we'll talk about when we get there. And this is really just open here for my reference as I'm building the model on the right. So I'm going to go into my projects, I'm going to look at my demo models project, and I'm going to kick off a new model. This model is going to be called, let's just call it pattern loading 1 and create model. So what we want to talk about in this model is how we actually perform a pattern loading analysis. Now, the classic case for this is obviously a continuous beam where we've got distributed loads on the beam, and we want to understand what are the envelopes of behavior that we'll expect in that beam depending on where the loading is applied. Now, typically we're going to have a permanent or dead load and a variable or live or variable load. And while the dead load is typically going to be fairly static in the sense that it doesn't move between spans. Whatever spans have dead load at the start of the beam's life, they'll typically have that dead load at the end of the beam's life as well. But what we're more interested in is how the live load varies across the beam. And for a structure like this, which is a 4-span continuous beam, these happen to be 4 equal spans, but they don't have to be equal spans obviously. For a beam like this, what we want to do is perform a number of different analyses with live load or variable load on different spans, and then understand what are the maximum and minimum moments. What's the max hogging moment and again the max sagging moment throughout the structure. And we do that by performing multiple different analyses and then creating an envelope of response, and that's what we're going to show here. So before we get any further into this, let's just start building out this model. So what I've got here is a 4-span continuous beam, very simple to build. The spacing is 6 meters, so I'm going to change my grid spacing on the right here to be 6 meters. I'll zoom out, and that just allows me to quickly add my nodes. So I'll just add 1, 2, 3, so that's 1 span, 2 span, 3, 4 spans. Okay, we want to add members between those. Now, I'm not too concerned about what members we're using here. It's not really important. So I'll just go to members, and with a default member and material, I'll just create members between these. Let me just fit the model to the view. Okay. All right. Now let's just add our supports. Again, pretty quick, rapid fire. So we just want to pin here a roller, a roller, a roller, and a roller. Okay, now we can get into the loading. So the way this beam is set up is that it's got a 25 kilonewton per meter dead load on all spans. So let's start off by adding that first of all. So that's just going to be a distributed load. Now what I need to do here actually is I need to set up my load cases first. Now we have a default dead load case, that's fine. So in fact, before we get into live load, let's add the dead load across the structure using the default load case, right? So we're going to have member 1, it's going to be minus 25 and minus 25. And we'll add that to all of the spans. Okay, so there's nothing complicated there. 25 kilonewtons per meter across the full beam. Now, we have a live load of 15 kilonewtons per meter, but we want to understand, as I said, how the beam responds based on that live load being in different spans, right? So a maximum version of the live load would be, let's say, 1.5 times the live load, and the minimum version of the live load would be 0 times the live load, so no live load. So first of all, let's just add a live load for each of the different spans. So we want a live load case for each of the different spans. So over on the left here, I'm going to add a new case, and I'm going to call it live load 1. That's going to be the live load that gets added to span 1. And we'll add all of them first, right? So we'll want a live load for span 2. We'll want a live load for span 3. And finally, a live load for span 4. We could tick to add the self weight to the beam as well, but we don't want to do that now. We'll just focus on these load cases we've added. So with the first live load, that's going to be the live load case for live loading on span 1. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to change this to live load 1. It's going to be on member 1, and it's going to be minus 15. Okay, then we can come in and select the live load. We want a new one. It's going to be live load for span 2. It will live on span 2, and that's going to be minus 15 as well. We'll do the same for live load case 3 on span 3, and then the same for span 4. So the fourth live load case for span 4. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to look at different load combinations. We have all of our load cases applying loads to the relevant locations on the beam. Now what I want to do is I want to understand the combined influence of dead load and live load, where the live load is at different positions along the beam. So the different combinations of loading are going to be as follows. Every combination that I discuss is going to have the full dead load, right? The factored dead load, which is going to be 1.35 times the dead load. So everything from here on is going to have 1.35 times the dead load. But what will vary between the different load combinations is what live load is applied to each span. So the first load combination is going to be live load on alternate spans. So we'll have live load on span 1, nothing on span 2, live load on span 3, nothing on span 4. That's going to be called alternate load case 1, and in fact our alternate load combination, I should say, 1. So let's add that now, right? So we'll call it, it's a ULS ultimate limit state load case, and I'm going to give it the title alt spans, and it's going to be 1. So what are the factors that I have to apply to each of my load cases for this combination? Well, it's going to be the maximum dead load, so we'll factor that by 1.35. It's going to be the maximum live load on span 1, so it'll be 1.5. No live load on span 2, and the maximum on span 3, and nothing on span 4. So that's our first load combination. Now we want the other alternate spans load combination, which starts off with no load on span 1, no live load, max live load on span 2, no live load on span 3, and the max live load on span 4. So we'll call this ULS ultimate or alt spans 2. So this one is going to be, again, remember, it's always the max dead load. This time we want 0 for the live load on span 1, 1.5 on span 2, 0 times the live load on span 3, and 1.5 times the live load on span 4. Okay, so that's our second load combination. Now the next load combination we're going to want to look at is loading, maximum live loading on adjacent spans. So the first one of these combinations will be the max live load on span 1 and 2 with nothing on span 3 and 4. So let's add that before we talk about the next one after that. So this is going to be a ULS load combination, and it's going to be, we'll call it the adjacent spans, and it's going to be the first one. So again, 1.35 times the dead. Now for the first two spans, adjacent spans, it'll be the full live load and then nothing on the other spans. The next combination is going to be alternate or adjacent spans 2, again, full dead load. Now this time we want no live load on the first span, but the next two spans, which will be span 2 and 3, will have the full live load and then nothing on the last one. So we can add that guy. And then our final combination will be the adjacent load combination 3, which again is the full dead load. No live load on span 1, no live load on span 2, but full live load, full factored live load, 1.5 times the live load on spans 3 and 4. So we can add that. Okay, so we've added load cases. We've combined those load cases in a way that allows us to probe pattern loading on the structure. Now we can solve this, but before we solve it, what we'll also do is we'll add an envelope. So we'll say, I want to generate envelopes that combine the results of all of these different combinations, right? So this is going to be an ultimate limit state envelope, an envelope which identifies the outer bounds of the bending moment and shear force diagram across all load cases, and we'll see that now in a second. So we'll just add that. Okay, so we have load cases, load combinations, and envelopes. Now we can save the structure and solve it. Okay, there we have it. So let's go full screen on this, fit our model to the screen. All right, so we can now see all of our results, but this time our drop down becomes significant because we can see results now, or specify results for each of our different load cases, our load combinations, and our envelopes. So if we want to just see the influence of dead load on the structure, we leave it at dead load, and then we can see the deflection that we get is a symmetrical deflected shape here for the dead load for the structure, which is what we would expect. And of course we see as well that our reactions are fully symmetrical as well, because this is just a uniform distributed load across this structure. So it's symmetrical loading on a symmetrical structure, which means our deflected shape will be symmetrical. Now if I want to look at what is the influence of live load on span 1, remember, just live load on span 1, this is the deflected shape, and this is the corresponding set of results. And of course we could look at the bending moment that results from that, or the shear force, or whatever set of results we want. In fact, let's leave those results on and just cycle through. So we can look at live load on span 1 on its own, and we get, that's live load on span 3. Live load on span 1 looks like this, span 3, and span 4. Okay, but where it gets more interesting is when we start looking at our pattern loading. So remember, alternate spans 1, that was dead load across everything, and then live load on span 1, so this was alternate, and then span 3. So let's see what we get if we look at that guy. Okay, so it starts to get a little bit more messy looking. In fact, now it's sort of time to just look at one set of results at a time. So we can see our deflected shape starts to get a bit more interesting. And we can look at our bending moment diagram. Again, to do this manually, obviously, is going to be an awful lot of manual analysis, but obviously it's a piece of cake if we just build a model like this. And of course, you can cycle through all of the different load combinations you like, but what I really want to show is our envelope. So we have a set of results here for bending moment, right? Let's actually turn off our applied loads and our deflected shape. So this is the bending moment for alternate spans 1. Okay, so we can see we have peaks in moment across or hogging moment across this support and this support down here. Alternate spans 2, if I go to adjacent spans, we can see we have a higher peak here. Okay, and again, basically you can cycle through all of your different results and look at the various different individual peaks in bending moment or shear force or whatever the case may be. But what's more interesting at this stage is looking at an envelope. And an envelope is essentially turning on all of the bending moment diagrams, for example, and then creating an envelope for the outer max and min values across the whole thing. So let's look and see what that looks like. So this is what you're looking at here. We would want to be designing for these hogging moments, these values of hogging moments. And then in terms of sagging moments, we want to be designing for these values here, because these will be the maximum sagging moments that were observed across all different load combinations. One important thing to remember here is that this is all based on the simple principle of superposition. And so at this point, we're relying on linear structural behavior. If our structure is behaving non-linearly, obviously superposition doesn't apply then, and this would not be valid. But we're really just dealing with relatively simple structural behavior. It's linear structural behavior. And if we want, we can hit select here, which will allow us to hover over the beam and see the various different results. So we can see for M here, the moment, we can see the values of maximum and minimum moment. So 173.8 is the maximum value of moment, and that's governed by or determined by the alternate spans 1 combination. And we can see that the smaller value of moment in that region is 75.2, so that will be the lower limit, and that's going to be alternate spans 2 that gives us that particular value. And you can do the same thing, hovering across the whole structure to get your different values out. Incidentally, you have that same tooltip if you go and change this to be one of the load cases. Well, then you can see you just get your standard values. You get the position along the beam, axial load. Obviously, there's no axial load. We've got shear, moment, and deflection across the beam. And of course, we can click to pin one of those values and keep it there to compare it against other values on the structure as well. Okay, so there you have it. That is just a very quick and simple example of how we can handle pattern loading, and we can then observe the envelopes of behavior as a result of that pattern loading. So I hope you found that helpful. In the next video, we're going to come back and build a model that combines both bending or flexural members and axially loaded members. We sometimes call these combined structures. And so I'll see you for that in the next video.